Everest. For this case study, I researched the 2021 Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. This incident shut down the largest fuel pipeline in the US and led to mandatory federal cybersecurity laws for pipeline operators for the first time. The attack came from the dark side, the Russian ransom as a service gang. They got in through a single compromised VPN password which had no multi-factor authentication protecting it. This gave them access to the IT network, not the physical control system, but because of this, the Colonial shut down the entire pipeline just to be safe. The impact was catastrophic. Colonial supplies about 40% of the fuel used in the East Coast, so a week long a week-long shutdown caused real shortages and panic buying across more than a dozen states. The government's involvement was almost immediate, and the FBI's investigation later recovered parts of the ransom. The TSA, which had never issued mandatory pipeline rules before, put out its first directive within 3 weeks. Colonial's own CEO testified to the Senate that he personally authorized the $4.4 million ransom payment within a day of the attack. That shows just how much pressure a private company was under to make a fast decision with national consequences. The real issue was a basic password problem, not some sophisticated exploits. The huge mismatch between the cause and the effect. Why does this matter? Before this pipeline security was voluntary, the incident proved voluntary guidance wasn't enough and that criminal groups, not just nation states, can seriously threaten the infrastructure of a whole company that depends on it. Looking forward, this is now the go-to justification regulators use for mandatory cybersecurity rules on private infrastructure. It directly produced TSA's pipeline security directives, and it helped shape President Biden's cybersecurity executive order just days later. For my structure analytic technique, I use pros and cons to analyze the central dilemma of the case. Should Colonial have paid the ransom? On the pro side, paying got the fuel moving again instead of weeks of shortages, and its limited economic damage across the whole region. On the con side, it funded criminal enterprise. It didn't fix the actual vulnerability, and it signaled that critical infrastructure was always a profitable target for malicious groups like this. A good takeaway that I had was after weighing both sides, paying was a defensible short-term decision, but a bad-term long precedent was set. That's exactly why these policies response afterward focused on preventing the vulnerability in the first place rather than on the payment its decision itself. As a future leader, here's what I'll do to prevent this from happening again. First, multi-factor authentication for every part of the network, from passwords to every form of login. Second, report first policy. So a company has a plan instead of making a ransom decision alone under pressure. Third, continuous monitoring of third-party audits. This is specifically tied to the TSA framework on this incident. In retrospect, Colonial should have had multi-factor authentication in place well before 2021. That's the one decision that if they made earlier, it would have prevented this entire case.